The inspiration for my brief reflection this evening happened 2 weeks ago in this sanctuary. Let me explain. It was after the second service. About 95% of the people had left to go home. And I was in the back corner doing something, straightening up and getting my things together. When suddenly out of the corner of my eye, I see this little girl come through the double doors and make a beeline to the nativity. That little girl happened to be my 5-year-old granddaughter, Emma. And I just watched what she was doing, and she didn't look to the right, she didn't look to the left, she was going to the nativity. She didn't see me. And as she looked, she stood there for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and then she caught me out of the corner of her eye, and she turned to me, and she said, "Pop, I know where the baby Jesus is." Now, a little bit of history on that. That week, I had asked our brother Sean if he would do the honor of putting out the nativity scene this year. I showed him where the boxes were and told him, here it is, work your magic. It was outstanding. The very next day, I checked on it. Everything was in place. The donkey, the sheep, the stray, the hay, the straw, all that. Everything was perfect. But when I came to the nativity, I've done what I have done for 3 decades. Whoever puts the nativity up, I take the baby Jesus, that little ceramic baby Jesus, and I hide him. Oh yeah, I'm ordained to do that. I yield great power to hide the baby Jesus. And that baby Jesus is hidden, and I am the only one, and God, I am the only one who knows where I hide that baby Jesus. Back to the story. So in that moment, I had a standoff with my 5-year-old granddaughter, Smarty Pants, who happened to think that she knew where that ceramic baby Jesus was. In that moment, I did what every grandfather should never do. I took the bait, and I asked my 5-year-old granddaughter, "Okay, Emma, where's the baby Jesus?" And as straightest a face that she's ever given me, she said, "Pop, Jesus is in Mary's belly." I just let that settle for a second. After a slight chuckle and a solid theological kick to the head by a 5-year-old, I went for a walk later that afternoon, as I often do on Sunday afternoons, and knew in that moment it would give birth to this message. Because my granddaughter's innocence forced me to ask this Advent Christmas season. And perhaps you might want to ask it also. What Jesus am I following? What Jesus am I chasing after? Am I merely chasing after a ceramic, sterile Jesus, the Jesus of a bulletin, a Jesus of nice decorations, a Jesus I can hide in a minute's notice? Or am I following the living, breathing, challenging, all-encompassing, suffering Jesus that never hides from me. That darn 5-year-old girl has made me struggle over the last 2 weeks. I've had to ask some more questions of myself, and if you'd like to ask the same, I invite you 100%. I've had to ask, do I follow the Jesus whose parents in those days, that's how Luke starts, right? In those days, where we have so romanticized that. In those days. Let's understand those days. Am I following the Jesus whose parents may have traveled all to 70 miles over a period of many days to be counted in this first of its kind census by Caesar Augustus, which was absolutely a calculated political move to harness power, money, and devotion. That's it. It was a power move. Do I follow the parents of this Jesus who struggled mightily on that road? Or do I follow the Jesus of the easy road that expects nothing from me as long as I say I'm a Christian? That's it. I'm a Christian just waiting to get to heaven. Which Jesus am I following? The Jesus of the long, hard, difficult road? Or the Jesus that I think just expects me to play Christian? I've had to ask, am I a disciple of the infant, homeless Jesus? There's a twist. To understand that this Jesus that we say we worship began his life homeless, and whose ministry later reached out to those who were poor and homeless and forgotten, lost, cold, and afraid. Do I follow that Jesus? Does what I do day in, day out become a witness of following that Jesus? Or do I alternatively worship the warm, cozy, comforting Jesus, in whose name, if we just pray enough, if I just pray long enough, oh, I'll have all kinds of favor and blessings bestowed on me, says the modern day televangelists. Which Jesus am I following? What Jesus am I a disciple of? I needed to ask myself, do I worship the God who first spoke to the shepherds out tending their flocks by night? I wonder if we've connected the dots with the shepherds yet, no matter how many Christmas Eves you've attended. Have you ever wondered why the shepherds weren't on their way to the census? Think about that. Because really, Scripture should be read, well, Joseph and Mary, who was expecting, were walking to the census, and along the way they came across some shepherds, and they joined them, and all the sheep came along with them and everything, and they all went to be counted. That's not what Scripture says. Ever wondered why? Because the shepherds were the migrants, were the refugees of the day, were the lost, the forgotten, those without a home country. In my reverence towards a God who colors outside the lines, who reaches those the masses often disparage, is my faith so consumed to be with those who look like me, think like me, live like me, with a God we conveniently manipulate to be like me. I invite you to struggle. I invite you to struggle tonight. We're about to light the Christ candle. And as we do, I invite you to struggle. Who is this Jesus to you and to me? A Jesus of convenience? A Jesus of the easy road? Or does Jesus call us towards something deeper, harder, more difficult? We call Jesus the light of the world. And before I light the Christ candle, I began to think this week that we could light that candle and sit right where we are and be in awe of it. Oh, what a lovely candle. Friends, it was $4.99 at the dollar store. But instead, every Christmas Eve, we light that candle and we take it out. We take the light of Christ to one another. And as we do that, we come face to face with the light of the world, with this Jesus. And eventually, we will extinguish our candles, knowing that the light of Jesus is never extinguished, and that light resides in us, and our job, our role as disciples and followers is to witness that light to others. In this holy, sacred time, as we light the candle of Christ, as you peer into your candle, may it speak gently, loudly if needed. Who is this Jesus whose birth we celebrate tonight?